today we've got this yellow thing in the sky, which didn't really know what it was, but it was shining ever so brightly through my window. And I have lights here in my office, and even this light here, which is on my right, wasn't enough to cover the shadow from the sun coming in. So sadly, even though we don't get much direct sun here, I have pulled the blind down so that I can be seen in all my glory. So welcome to the very first, the inaugural, the premiere of Tech Startup Unfiltered Live with Pete Daly-Dickson and Stuart Prestedge. Welcome, Stuart.
Thank you. Yeah, glad to be here. Just experimenting. Oh, Phil's experimenting as well. Yeah.
So, Stuart, do you want to tell everyone where you are currently in the world?
Yeah, sure. I live in Prague, or I live just outside of Prague, but today I'm in Prague, in the Czech Republic. So we moved here about 6 years ago, and love it here. It suits me.
Nice.
Suits me. It's not quite as stressful as the UK.
And I'm in Coventry, which, as I said earlier, is sunny today, which is most excellent. Welcome everyone who is here. I'm going to name check those who were brave enough to attend the first ever one of these. Phil Meekins, hi. Michelle Coombs, hi. And Mark O'Hearn, hi. Welcome. So I can basically, this call is my fault. Okay, so hands in the air. All right, I'm responsible for this. I put a business case to Stuart a couple of weeks ago, and I won. so here we are. And my idea behind this Tech Startup Unfiltered live show is really to give founders an opportunity of the thinking that goes on inside an experienced software startup founder's mind. I mean, the first time we do anything as humans, whether it's walking, riding a bike, or starting a startup, we suck at it. And we only get better with experience and doing it more and more times. Now, Stuart has built over 20 products in 8 software companies. He sold 3 of those companies, one in an 8-figure deal. And there is a tremendous amount to be gained from not only what someone like that thinks, but also how they think. So that's really the intent behind these weekly lives, is just to give us all a peek inside. It might be a bit scary at times, inside the mind of a really experienced and yet humble software startup founder. So, Stuart, are you up for brain surgery every week so we can see inside?
No, I'm hanging up now, and I'm not coming back. Yeah, sure. I mean, you know my mission, and well, I should restate it, I guess.
Yeah.
My mission is literally to empower as many early stage tech founders as possible to succeed and make an impact. So anything to do that, and this seems like a fantastic vehicle to do that. So yes, absolutely. Yeah. Any way I can help.
Okay, so right out of the gate, then, why that mission, and why is that mission so important to you?
Yeah, so I started out my early career creating software. You know, I'm a geek, a nerd at heart. And so, you know, I discovered that I love creating software, and then I created business around that. So creating money from your software and seeing people use your software is great. As I got older, kind of realized that my equal passion, if you like, is to help others. It's built into me, always has been. I've just only noticed it properly, you know, 10, 15 years ago. So it's definitely my passion to help others. In addition, it's my passion. Tech is my passion, business, creating. And then also as you get older, I found, obviously we've got climate and other problems going on in the world. So whether it's a natural thing as you get older, but I want to make an impact. I want to make a difference. And it's not to be remembered or anything like that. It's just because I want the world to be a better place for my children and everyone else's children. So hence my mission.
You want to leave the world a better place than
Yeah,
when you found it.
yeah, absolutely.
So let's go back to those very early days of software. What was apart from Hello World, because all the coders in the room will
That
know
wasn't my
that
first piece of
in
software. No,
any language is like how to get
no.
Hello World printed on the screen. What was your very first program?
It wasn't Hello
Very
World. It
first
was a
software.
calculator. It was a calculator. I was 12 years old. I got my VIC 20. I don't know if anyone remembers that. Got my VIC 20, and my parents, weren't well off. They had to save up for it, the £200 it cost to buy it. And I got it. Maybe it was a Friday or something. By Sunday, I'd learnt how to write code and created a calculator program where you could type any equation in and get the answer. So,
Okay, so why that program? Were you good at maths and didn't have a calculator to hand, or it seemed like a difficult thing to do? I'm just curious.
I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe it was the first thing that popped into my head. I can't remember. That was 44 years ago. So I don't know why, but more just a test, really, probably.
Yeah.
To see what I could do.
And do you remember how you felt both writing the program and afterwards when you saw it working?
No one's ever asked me that. No one's ever asked me that, and that is a fantastic question. I felt great. I was in total control, and I could get this thing to do anything I wanted. And true is, I have one of those old black and white tellies. A small box where you had to tune it, you had to turn it, and I had a coat hanger sticking out the top, to get BBC One.
Yeah.
But so it was black and white, but it wasn't color. But even so, I just felt, wow, I can do what I want here. So I went on to do many, many other things.
Mm.
Games mostly, I was a kid and liked games. So I wrote adventure games, which is a great way of exercising imagination as well when writing those, because you have to imagine the worlds and all the different things you could do. And there's a story about that as well later on, but I won't bore you with that one yet. And then I wrote Pac-Man, and it was in BASIC. This was in BASIC, and the Pac-Man went around the screen going, It was so slow. So I saved my pennies, literally went to the shop where they sold the machine code book for £9.99, and I tipped my jar out of pennies onto the counter, and he counted them all, and it was £9.99, and I got my machine code book. So I learnt machine code in a day or two and rewrote Pac-Man in machine code. So yeah.
So when you describe yourself at the top of the show as being like a bit nerdy, a bit of a geek, I mean, I didn't know that you coded in machine code. I have in one module at college. I did computer studies in Bristol, and it was painful. It's like
it's all the same to me. It's in fact, it's the
yeah.
reason I stopped writing software, because I loved doing it, but it always all the same. But when I met my business partner when I was 18 or 19, he's very shrewd. He is to this day one of my closest friends. Knows exactly what people need, in terms of games or business or whatever. He said, "Well, we'll do an experiment. We'll make sure we can work together. So we're going to write a Space Invaders clone." So I said, "Okay," and I wrote a Space Invaders clone in machine code. Yeah, so I'm a proper nerd. And you asked me about maths. Yeah, I love maths. I love software. So Yeah.
So you mentioned there about your co-founder, I guess. Was that, had you, you mentioned about building businesses around software.
Yeah.
Had you attempted to do that before you met your business partner, Simon? Is
No,
that right?
no, that's right, Simon. No,
Yeah. Okay. So
no.
it was meeting Simon that really started to unlock uh,
I think so.
the business and ultimately the financial potential of your software.
Yeah, I think so. We wrote a game called Green, and I wouldn't say it was our business, but we sold it in the PCW. Wrote it on the PCW computer, which is the only thing we had, and sold it in the PCW magazine. And people used to send us checks in the post, and we'd send them the floppy disks with the code on it. So Green was a game that was the first commercial game, I think, which won an award. And again, it was funnily enough, talking about impact, it was climate. It was a game that where you had to save the climate. And this was like 88, 89,
Mm.
when global warming was a brand new thing, this possibility of global warming.
Yeah.
So,
It
yeah,
took over
and I
from
mentioned,
acid rain, didn't it? I remember it was acid rain when I was at school.
I can't
There's
remember
always
too
one
much.
thing. Yeah.
But as I said, Simon was
There,
shrewd.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's something in. I always want to be teasing out and drawing out threads, both from your story and your experience for founders today.
Mm,
So
mm,
hearing that it was meeting Simon and developing that relationship that really started to unlock it for you. How important is having a co-founder, do you think, in the tech startup world?
It's better to have, I believe it's better to have a co-founder than not. It's not critical. I've had businesses where it was just me. After Simon and I went our separate ways. But I do believe it's better for a number of reasons. You can, you can share. There's a mindset thing. It's a long journey creating a product and a business, and it can be quite disheartening at times, especially when you have
Yeah,
setbacks, etc., or you just literally run out of energy. So having a co-founder can help with the morale. You boost each
yeah,
other's morale, and it's it's so easy when you're on your own, I believe, to not be rigorous about your decision making, and you're in an echo chamber effectively. So you haven't
mm,
got someone playing devil's advocate and saying, well, what if this, or what if that, have you thought of this, have you thought of
mm.
that, or what if this
Well,
happens?
I guess I guess to be fair, you might have that, with family and friends, but having it from someone who has a vested interest in
Yeah,
that
yeah,
decision,
yeah,
that's the difference, isn't it?
yeah. And I'm not selling my services or anything, but I honestly believe that if you haven't got a co-founder, you should get a community or an advisor or some other way of having sounding board that will honestly give you their opinion, or a different perspective on certain things.
Yeah. So you said it's better to have a co-founder than not. Was there any caveats or provisos there?
Well, yeah, there are downsides, obviously. So therefore, there's a process that I follow to actually choose the right co-founder. But I'll come on to that. But the downside is you share the equity. You might fall out. You still might not fill all the skills gaps, as it were. So there still
Mm,
might be missing skills gaps.
mm,
I'm sure there are other downsides, but they're the ones that spring to mind.
mm.
So be
Knowing you
careful.
as sorry,
The
go on.
warning is it's better to have a co-founder, but you have to do it very carefully and very properly. And what you do not want to do is become a co-founder with a close friend or family member without being really, really, really careful about managing expectations, looking for skeletons in the closet, really kind of reducing that risk of falling out or mitigating what happens if you did fall out or at least want to go separate ways. And of
Yeah.
course, get a partnership agreement in place.
I guess the caveat is it's better to have a co-founder than not, but it's better to not have a co-founder than have the wrong one.
Yeah, or do it in the wrong way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do it the wrong way. I mean, knowing you as I do, having worked with you for a couple of years, it doesn't surprise me that you have a process for uh, selecting a co-founder and finding
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
co-founder. But for founders, perhaps those watching this webinar that don't know you as well as I do, that might come as a surprise that you can have a process for something like that. I mean, is there a question behind that? I don't know. I
Yeah,
guess
there
what I'm
is.
saying
Yeah,
is
there
that,
is. You could say, does everything have a process and get documented? And for me, the answer is absolutely yes. And it's born out of the fact that I have zero memory. So I have to write everything down, or I'll have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, when I did my exams, my university exams, I couldn't remember the equations, so I had to work them out from first principles. So 9 pages of working out equations in physics and maths from first principles when I could have just remembered them. So yeah, I
wow.
write everything down in a process, but there are benefits, of course, to doing that, not
Yeah.
just supplementing your memory.
And again, this, like I said at the top of the show, this this environment is to find out both what and how an experienced software startup founder thinks. And there's a top tip that's just come out of nowhere. Don't do things without thinking about what is the process behind it. Would you say what's the first principle lesson there? I guess, Stuart.
Yeah, that's yeah, good question. Good question. So whenever you do something that even has the slightest chance of you having to do it again or explain it to someone or get someone else to do it, whatever, create a process document. Even if that process document is one line that says do this, because you won't have to sort of work out again, is it just one thing I've got to do? You can evolve, processes evolve, of course, and the discipline needed for a founder is to update that document as the process goes on. But it's great, then you can use that to train others. You can use that, as I said, to not have to remember what you did. You can create checklists from that to if you need to audit yourself or if someone else needs to audit you on certain processes. Um, and perhaps automate some of those things, so it's easier for someone else to automate them, which
Mm.
I've done quite a lot in my current business. So yeah, there are many benefits,
Yeah,
but it's easy to
great.
do.
That's it.
Create a blank document.
Yeah, yeah, just a Google Doc. I never uh, like we just brought a new team member on this week, Matt, and the three of us, Stuart, Matt, and I, were on a call, and like halfway through the call, Stuart shared his screen, and sure enough, there was a Google Doc full of notes and start of a process. So I know from first-hand experience that he really does walk the talk, so to speak. I've just realised, Stuart, that there is a chat function here, and some people have some attendees have been writing. So Phil said, "Yeah, 10 print hello world, 20 go to 10." Yeah, that's right. And then
So,
Mark said that his first computer was a Commodore 64, floating balloon in BASIC.
that's pushing
Yeah,
the
that
boat.
was what.
I couldn't afford a Commodore
Yeah,
64.
yeah. And then Michelle says, almost tell us how old you are without saying you're old. ZX80 was her first one, and Phil's was the Acorn Electron. But Michelle went on to ask also a good question, circling back to our conversation earlier about co-founder. She says, "What are your thoughts about bringing a co-founder in at a later stage?"
Yeah.
She says, or is she just better building a team that is salaried?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, and it can be. There are pros and cons to anything you do, I think. So often you've got to use your gut to decide what's best to do, because it's not black and white what's best, but there are pros and cons. So one of the pros is clearly you don't need to give away as much equity. You can use the time before your co-founder comes on board to really understand the skills gaps and the need that you have, but also really think about one of the things I forgot to mention when choosing a founder is to really think about your personality, because it's not just about you getting on with them, it's about them getting on with you. And a lot of people are not self-aware and know their personality, and I'm probably possibly in that bucket. So if you can look at your own personality and say, okay, what type of person am I looking to take on, looking to work with, that can help. But bringing a founder on later, a co-founder later, one of the downsides, of course, is they might not feel as invested. They might not feel the ownership that you feel, and feel more like an employee. So again, you're limiting who you would choose from. And the other thing I want to mention as well, I've just remembered, is don't, and I see this quite a lot, don't choose the first person that comes along and says, hey, I'll be your co-founder, I'll work with you. Or at least don't do that without still going through the proper procedures, proper checks and balances.
Yeah.
I see it so often, and I see co-founders fall out and the business just dies. And it doesn't need to die, especially if you bring on a co-founder later on. As I said, it's probably even more important to get a shareholder agreement a co-founder agreement in place if you bring them on later on. What else? But yeah, it's perfectly valid. It's perfectly valid to bring someone on later on. It's just it's a slightly different situation.
Yeah. So she
And of
said,
course,
thanks for that.
yes, thanks, Michelle. And last thing to mention is, I can help in this area. That we can have a discussion around it, etc., etc.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've had long-ranging conversations with you, Stuart, and I'm quite happy to go on for the rest of the afternoon. But I did want to keep these Tech Startup Unfiltered conversations punchy, short, focused. I didn't know what would come out of this conversation, but we've got some really good golden nuggets there, and we really just need one or two each of these conversations to move the needle on our startups. Mark, just to finish off, Mark said that he has attempted to find a co-founder, but nobody I spoke to understood my vision. We've got something that can help you with that, Mark. I'll share. I don't think you and I have had a conversation, but one of the things that we do share with founders that move towards us is something called impact filter. And what an impact filter does, it's something that we've borrowed from Strategic Coach based out of Canada. They've been coaching successful, ambitious entrepreneurs for over 40 years. And the impact filter is a tool to effectively help you think differently about whatever it is that you're working on, whatever project it is that you want to be able to sell in a sense to other people. And that's ultimately what you're doing when you're finding a co-founder, is you're selling that co-founder on your vision. And the impact filter is a really powerful tool to help you articulate your vision in a way that impacts other people. And if you're still unable to attract a co-founder once you've gone through the impact filter, then that might tell you something else. Everything is a data point, isn't it?
Yeah, and I can I add to that? If you can't explain your vision to someone, especially if they're kind of in the startup world, I think there's a problem. Because obviously you're doing what you're doing, Mark, for your own reasons, and that's fine. Those reasons don't have to be, make a unicorn or even make money. Some people can fund themselves and not make money. You've got your personal goals, which generally revolve around either money or impact to some level of scale. But ultimately, what you're doing should be almost always, I think, meeting a need, meeting some kind of need,
Solving a
something
problem.
that's not always a problem. Doesn't have to be a problem. Could be a need to be entertained. But a problem is a big, problem is something that you can sell because people will pay to solve problems. but there are more needs than just problems. But if you haven't identified the need that you're fulfilling and who you're fulfilling it for, business or type of person, whatever, then it's unlikely that I believe it's unlikely that you will get people wanting to use your solution, whatever that is. I don't know obviously anything about your solution, but and if you don't have anyone using it, it's kind of pointless, almost certainly pointless doing it. So I think you should think long and hard about how to articulate those things clearly and what those things are. And then you can test them out. You can test them out in this group. Put your vision into the group,
Yeah.
community forum, and people will, other founders and myself and Pete will feedback on it.
Yeah. And the good thing about using the impact filter to do that is that it creates a common language. So rather than kind of just writing text about it, if you do the thinking that is required when you ask the questions that the impact filter asks you, then you stand a much better chance of impacting other humans with your idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, great. Okay, well,
last point on that. You may have in your head what the problem is, who you're helping, but you've got to be able to articulate it on paper or verbally, because otherwise, you'll always be talking to potential customers, potential users, possibly investors. So you need to be able to articulate that. So work on that.
Yeah, and I'll share the link to an impact filter which you can copy, and if you'll share that in the group, then people will tell you whether they're impacted by it or not, whether they get it. So that's all from me, and that's all from him, Stuart, in Prague, for the first Tech Startup Unfiltered show. And same time, same place next week, Stuart?
Believe so, yes. Sounds good.
Great.
All right.
See you then.
Thanks, everyone.
Alrighty.
Nice to see you. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.